Good afternoon and welcome to another Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, WCTV Channel 21, and streaming on Facebook Live. We're taking your questions on our Facebook page as well as on Twitter for our guests. Back after a week off, hopefully doing something fun. Dr. David Jetmore, Wayne County Health Officer. Good to see you.
Good to be here, Eric. I went to see my oldest son in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Never been to Austin before. We had a lot of fun.
Cool. You can talk about traveling and how you got there. Did you drive?
No, we flew, and it was a very safe experience. I felt like the airlines require masks. They're not spacing people out in like they did earlier. I think they were just probably flying half the people they could have flown. But I felt I'm vaccinated, but I felt it was a very safe environment, I thought. So
Cool.
It's nice to fly after all that time.
That's important to know.
Forgotten how to do that.
Your arms tired from not
Yeah,
practicing?
flapping all that way up, especially over Tennessee, I about fell, but I was able to coast after that.
The other face on the screen, obviously, is not Dr. Huth. It's
It is
Christine
not.
Stinson, Executive Director of the Wayne County Health Department. Thanks for being back with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I have some new stuff to talk about this week that I think that everyone will be interested in.
Marvelous. On Zoom, and we'll be getting to her in just a couple of minutes, Denise Retz, Superintendent, Richmond Parks Department. Lots of things going on with the Parks Department. This is I guess we can almost say mid-June, which is kind of strange. It just seems to be ticking off. Different than last year. You weren't getting on a plane last June by any stretch of the imagination.
No, that's right. It was, I think, everybody misses different things from the height of the pandemic, but I think one of the biggest things for me is just being able to travel. I enjoy doing that, and not only are you confined to your home, you're pretty much defined to your house, town, and county. So it's nice to have that freedom again.
Last June, your office was probably a much different place than it is right now.
Yes, very, a lot of unknowns last June. We didn't know what was coming. We kind of projected what things were going to look like. We were bracing for that. There was so much unknown about the vaccine. Will it come out? When will it come out? Are we going to be able to get one? What's the fall going to look like? And there was a lot of unknowns. This year, we know more, and so we're able to kind of pinpoint our guidance and our restrictions and things to where they need to be. And the information coming out from the state is very concise. We're able to, this June, focus on things that we weren't able to focus on last June. And probably the funnest thing is inspecting all the swimming pools that are opening up this year. So that we had no swimming pools open last year.
Yeah.
I was very happy. I have to drive by the municipal pool on my way to work every day, and so it's a very beautiful pool. It's the first time I've seen it open, so I look forward to seeing everyone enjoying the pool this summer.
Okay. Listen, I like when you all do the quick setups. That's really good. That's probably a great place to bring in Denise Retz,
Yeah.
Superintendent of Richmond Parks and Recreation Department, and she is probably just as excited about the pool being open, if not more so than you.
bet.
Denise, we appreciate you taking the time and joining us. And this June for you, as Christine and Dr. Jetmore were saying, much different than last June for the Parks Department.
Absolutely. We are very excited to be back in the swing of things, literally at the ball fields. And we are like Christine said, very excited to see the slide in operation, our brand new slide. We have lots of people visiting the pool. We have people buying pool passes. Last year, we did have an increase in people utilizing our parks, which was wonderful. I think we are seeing the people understanding the benefits of parks more and more these days, and that's wonderful because that's what we preach each and every day, the benefits of your parks. We have chlorine on our side, obviously, and lots of people are coming and enjoying time with their families and their friends at the parks. And we have lots of daycares and summer camps and JUCO happening, of course, and having fun at the pool as well. So we're happy to have those camps come to the pool, and that's been fun. It's been great, and people are having a good time in our parks again, and we are loving it.
Talk a little bit, Denise. I had a chance, obviously, to record the park board meeting yesterday. Number of things going on. Talk a little bit about JUCO. This year being different than last year, where you really couldn't do JUCO last year. As you went into this year, there were still kind of some unknowns. Talk a little bit about some of the protocols, some of the things that you all had to think about to get JUCO back up and running, to be able to do the movies, like you all are doing a movie tomorrow night. Talk about some of the things that you all are able now to accomplish, and what you had to think about going into this summer.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, safety, we always think about those kinds of things. Outdoors, people can spread out and do what they feel they are comfortable doing. So that's a good thing. JUCO, we have limited staff. I think that's the thing that we're seeing most coming back from this kind of unknown territory from 2020. We're seeing people just now starting to get in the swing of filling out applications and wanting summer work. And that one has been difficult for us here at the Parks Department because, we've been in the swing of things since March and April. And that's usually when we get those applications and get these lifeguards and get these JUCO counselors in. We're just now seeing these applications really flowing in. So I think, that's been difficult. That's been a challenge for us. And so we have only been able to open 2 sites for JUCO instead of opening 4 sites. We opened the 2 biggest sites, Glen Miller and Springwood. We like to have that 1-to-10 ratio per camp counselor and child. We have 140 kids signed up. We hope to have more staff join. We also hope to have more lifeguards. We still have openings. So I think once we start getting more campers, more staff on, I think that will be helpful. Tuesdays and Thursdays are swim days, and Fridays are field trips. And so we're just keeping those precautions going, making sure people are washing their hands frequently, and which we do in a normal year, and just making sure those things are happening on a regular basis. The lunches are provided by Richmond Community Schools through the Department of Education. So we're handling all of those things as we would have done in a normal year, and just maybe making sure everyone is staying focused on their safety and health, and making sure they're using some extra hand sanitizer and things like that. So we're really concentrating on safe environments, but we really want those kids to be outside and active and living these healthy lifestyles, because that is important to not only the Parks Department, but the community as a whole.
Hey, Denise, this is Christine. I have a question about your masking policies, and if you have any policies around vaccinations. Do you require vaccinations? Do you encourage vaccinations? For unvaccinated staff and those older than 12, do you require masks to be worn when they're going to be within the 6 feet?
In which location? And any location that we have?
Yeah, in any of your programmings.
Well, we do say, we like to have people wear masks if they so choose, and if we do not necessarily ask, are you vaccinated? We give them the opportunities to get vaccinated and give them the information to do so if they choose.
Okay.
Talk about some of the things that you've got coming up, because you all have been able to put together, even though you don't have the full staff that you would normally have at this time, you've been able to put together a number of events that are coming up. I mentioned, I know you've got something in your Bark Park tomorrow. I think at Middle Fork, you've also showing a movie tomorrow night. So talk about some of those things that, because the community may not be yet fully aware that you're up, you're running. You mentioned the
Absolutely.
pool, but paddleball is big. I mean, talk about some of the locations.
Pickleball is yeah, they're up and running as just as well. The pickleball club is doing leagues, things like that outdoors. Obviously outdoors is when you're doing strenuous activities, just even in the midst of the pandemic, strenuous activities were defined, and masks weren't necessarily required in those strenuous activities. And also outdoors, it's a little easier to not promote mask wearing. And so I think that's where the Parks Department really shines, and also helps create those opportunities for our community to be in a safe environment. The Bark Park events that we hold usually 2 a year. This one is our treat find and bark and wine event that we do with Hills Pet Nutrition, and we scatter treats all around and just have a fun event. And then after that, we'll be showing Airbud, the movie, there at Middle Fork, just to kind of have a fun evening with your pup and also the family. We now have boat rentals, at Middle Fork, and we have a brand new playground. So there's tons to do at Middle Fork that's fun and that you can keep within proximity of others. And again, we encourage people to do what they feel comfortable with. Be mindful of others, lead that active and healthy lifestyle, and if parks can help with that, we want to, and we want to be those areas that you can do that in.
Father's Day is coming up. Your father-daughter walk has returned.
It has, and that will be coming up next Thursday. It's a really fun event. It's going to be a carnival, and it's going to be called Under the Big Top with Your Pop. So it's going to be a fun carnival themed event. You don't have to bring your father. You can bring a grandparent. You can bring, someone that is fun to hang out with. But we're going to have carnival games, and that is over at the Glen Miller Golf Course area. And that'll be a fun event for the family. And bring your dad, bring grandpa, whoever else, you feel that you want to bring someone special in your life. And we will have those carnival games. We will have popcorn, treats, things like that for crafts, you name it. So it'll be a fun, special event.
And I know you've talked about encouraging people to get out. You all have done that by doing some improvements on some of the park areas. Talk about that. You all just did a ribbon cutting on the Star Park, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah. So we put in 3 new playgrounds in the last 3 years, which is sometimes unheard of in the park world. With the playground with a purpose over at Clear Creek, and then the new Middle Fork playground, and then now Star Park over on 15th. So brand new playgrounds for our community, and these are other ways for people to get out and get active. Brand new playgrounds, safe, fun, exciting playgrounds, just to go and enjoy, run around, and have fun. So these are exciting amenities that we want to, share with the community and tell them to enjoy, and they're for them, and it's for them to enjoy and be safe and climb and explore and develop, and that's what they're there for. So it's exciting.
Cool. Denise, I appreciate the time. I know we spent last year this time talking a lot about what people couldn't do. Wanted us to spend a little time letting people know that there are things going on, there are things happening, particularly outside, which makes it safer for both vaccinated and unvaccinated people, but also to let folks know what the Parks Department is up to, because you all have been and continue to be incredibly busy.
Yes, we are, and we enjoy it. We wouldn't have it any other way. Cool. And we do like to stay busy. That means that people are enjoying their parks.
And I assume the golf course is keeping busy also during this time?
They are also in full swing, and you can reserve a tee time. It's so busy that we encourage you to reserve a tee time on HighlandLakeGC.com. So that is one thing that we haven't had to tell people to do in a while. As just reserve a tee time, so we can get you on the course. And so golf. The course is gorgeous, and it's crazy that our maintenance team out there comes in at 2 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m. to start mowing so that they can make way for the golfers, and they don't bother them. And a lot of people don't realize that, but that's dedication. That's dedication. And it's something I like to share because they want to make way for the golfers so they can get on the course fast and they're not in their way. And so, yeah, come try Highland if you haven't, but make a tee time.
Okay. Denise Retz, Superintendent, Richmond Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you for the time and for everything you and your staff are doing.
Yeah, thank you guys too.
No problem. Have a good day. You're watching Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, WCTV Channel 21, streaming on Facebook Live. Our guest, Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department. And as always, Dr. David Jetmore, Wayne County Health Officer. Sir, glad to have you back. We talked about the difference a little bit between this June and last June with Denise and some of what she's got going on. In speaking with you, it's an interesting dynamic because you point out that some of the numbers that we are seeing are not that different from June to June. What we're getting out doing and what you're able to tell people is different, but the numbers aren't. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I sent a infographic there. If you can pull that up, and it will show you that we look really similar to June of 2020 when you look at June of 2021. And so it's while we're very optimistic that with vaccination rates and lessons learned of how can we safely come back together, wearing masks, staying, separate. It's not time to, blow the victory horn yet, because we look really similar to what we looked like in June of last year, and then you see what happened there with quite a few deaths. The cases are concerning, but the deaths are the things that don't leave your mind often. And, something that strikes me when you look at other counties, and I look at Delaware County a lot because I have a lot of family over in Delaware County, and they've had a lot more cases than we have had and a lot fewer deaths. So, of their cases, they've had 198 deaths, and they're a lot bigger than we are, and we've had 202 deaths here in Wayne County. I'm not 100% sure. I think that we may have an older population over here in Wayne County, and that does
impact
particularly
impact during the fall and winter.
Right. So we definitely, but they saw outbreaks in long-term care facilities. We saw outbreaks in our long-term care facilities. So I'm optimistic, and I want everyone to enjoy the summer. I know where I'm going to be tomorrow night at the Bark Park. And if you guys haven't been there and you have a pup, boy, Wayne County has a beautiful dog park over there. It's something that a lot of counties don't have. And so I will be over there. You can come and see me and Petey out there. He's my pup. And I've been to that dog park often, so I'll be over there tomorrow night. So I just, I hate to always be the wet blanket of the community that says, enjoy it, but wait, there could be more. One thing that does affect the cases are our immunization rates. And something that we will have coming into this fall that we didn't have going into last fall are vaccines. And the more that we can vaccinate, the better we're going to be. And, you know, I don't know if you want to talk about some
Go
of the
for it.
things that.
You've got some of the rates there by
Yeah.
zip code, I think.
I
is how you
do.
have them broken out.
Yeah, I broke those down so we could look at Wayne County as a whole. We're at 40.4%. And then we can break it out by, you know, our different zip codes in Wayne County. And we can see that Centerville is at 42.5%, Richmond's at 40.7%. Cambridge City is at 33, Hagerstown's at 38.7, and then we get into some kind of alarming ones with Fountain City at 30%, Greens Fork is 33.9%, Boston 32.5%, and Williamsburg at 28.1%. You know, I'm not sure what accounts for the lower vaccination rates in some of those outlier areas. Is Centerville doing so good because of its proximity to Richmond and the more ease of vaccines because of all of the different vaccination places that we have in Richmond? That very well could be. So you'll see the health department going to Cambridge City and setting up. We did reach out to all of the schools to try to bring a vaccination clinic to every school district. Kind of that hasn't happened. We're looking more to doing those as school gets to ramp back up and try to get the kids vaccinated before the school year starts. We do have a vaccination at a school this weekend.
At Centerville.
At Centerville. They're the school that reached out and said, yeah, come on over. So we will be at Centerville. You don't have to be a Centerville resident. You don't have to have a child at Centerville. Anyone can come to this. So it'll be at the Centerville Junior High. Go through the main entrance, and we're going to be there from 10 to 2. You can make an appointment by going to rshot.in.gov. You'll be able to find that, and it'll say Centerville Vax Clinic.
Okay.
So you'll sign up for that one, or we'll do walk-ins, and you will have to have a parent or guardian if you're under 18 to be vaccinated at this one.
This is going to have. Are you taking a specific vaccine to this, or are you providing a selection of vaccines depending on what people want to do?
Right. We'll bring mostly Pfizer because, you know, we really want to make sure that we have enough to hit that 12 to 18-year-olds with Pfizer. But we're going to bring Moderna and Johnson & Johnson with us. So if there's an adult there that would rather have Johnson & Johnson, we've got that vaccine for you. But anyone 12 to 17 will only be offered Pfizer. So
you're going to end up doing a follow-up to that because Pfizer is the 2 shots.
Pfizer is the 2-shot, yep.
Okay.
So we will do a follow-up. Anytime that we do a Pfizer or Moderna vaccination, we'll come back and do that follow-up. We've done that for our manufacturing partners when we went to like Sugar Creek Packing. We went there and did vaccinations there. So we're really excited about getting into the schools and trying to make a difference in that population, 12 to 17, that hadn't previously been offered the vaccine. And I think they're still down around 12% of their total vaccinations. So we really want to push that. That's a place where we can really make a difference in our vaccination numbers.
You all are doing multiple. Is it you all that are doing multiple days at Ivy Tech next week?
Yeah, that is actually the state.
That is the state.
Yeah, the state is coming in for Juneteenth, so they'll be there June 19th, and they will be doing. I'm not sure if they're just doing Johnson & Johnson at that one, but they'll be there from 9 to 6.
Okay, and that's multiple days actually. That's the 16th through the 19th. So they're doing multiple days of that.
It is.
And walk-ins are welcome on that. So there's some information on an additional opportunity. You're watching Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, WCTV Channel 21, streaming on Facebook. We are taking your questions for Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department, Dr. David Jetmore, who's been sitting here very quiet today.
Yeah, I'm in a pensive mode here. Well, Christine has so much smart and good stuff to say. I just have been, taking it all in.
Okay. Let's try to get a couple of questions in, then we'll come back and see what other additional information Christine has for us.
Yeah.
And we'll get you to jump in a little bit too.
All right.
You took off last week. You don't get to completely take off this week. So, we've got a question for groups planning larger outdoor events this summer and fall. Does the Wayne County Health Department need to be consulted? Do COVID plans or protocols for the event need to be submitted to the health department?
They do not. So there is no requirement that you submit the plans and they be approved through the health department. We are here on a consultation basis, so we will be happy to talk to you about your plans, happy to look them over and add comments where we see you may want to add this or this really isn't necessary. So we're really just here to be a consultation consultant, as it is for those things.
If they're going to consult with you, do you want it to be, how far out should people reach out to you if they're planning an event? They're planning a big outdoor event for mid-July. Should they be talking to you now if they are going to do that?
Yeah, it's always good to work at least a month out. That way your plans are there. If, we're telling you, you probably should want to have some hand wash stations at your event, and that wasn't in your plans. Being able to rent them, are you going to buy them, are you going to set up, and we can talk to you how you can set them up, that's more basic and with an igloo cooler and stuff like that, we can help you set up hand wash stations.
Okay. Just try to get one or two more in real quick. Is it safe to assume that if you already had COVID-19, you don't need the vaccine because you already have the antibodies? Let's turn this way.
All right, I'll play. No, I don't think it is safe to assume that. When you get a vaccination, Eric, you're getting a specified amount of the vaccine, which generates a measured response, immune response. People who've had COVID are going to have all of them, I think, have some antibody protection, but it's going to be varied. And I would encourage anybody that's had COVID to go ahead and get vaccinated. This is you've had COVID and you know what it's like. You get sick, and it's a simple way to ensure that you don't get it again, because if you have a mild dose, there's a lot of evidence that you may not have enough antibodies to protect you from another infection. So I would not assume that you have enough protective antibodies.
And the vaccines really are designed to keep the virus from getting bad in people. What's been said here, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you like to do that here, that it should keep you out of the hospital, should keep you from worrying about dying from it, and should make the effects milder?
Yeah, if you're vaccinated, you're not going to end up in the intensive care unit. You're not going to end up dying. That's almost 100%. 5% of people that get Pfizer or Moderna vaccine will get COVID. I mean, the vaccine is not 100% effective. It's 95% effective, which is an incredible vaccine. I've said before, if you have a vaccine that's 70% effective, you're clicking your heels. And the World Health Organization a year ago was saying we'd accept a vaccine that was 50% effective. So not only are you liable not to get the disease to start with, but if you would get it, you're going to live and you're not going to end up having to go to the hospital. You'll have a very mild case.
Okay. Let's get one more in, and then let's just kind of open the conversation up a little bit more. So one more question. And of course it would be a long one. Regarding the new Delta variant, if I understood right, Moderna and Pfizer are only 30% resistant to this virus. Does that mean I have a 70% chance of catching this variant even though I'm vaccinated? Is there a booster coming soon? And I think we're going to turn this way again.
Well, I think that the protection from both Moderna and Pfizer is greater than 30%. I've never seen a protection rate that low, and if Christine's read otherwise in the literature, she can jump in. Most people are in agreement that we're probably going to have boosters. I mean, there are so many people that are not getting vaccinated, and there are all kinds of animal reservoirs now around the world that this virus is not going to vanish. It's not going to go away like some of the viruses that have plagued us in the recent past. So I think you're going to, I'm hesitant to give you a percentage of how much protection you will have. I think you'll still have significant protection against this variant with not only Moderna but Pfizer as well. So I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't sit up at night worrying about that. And I don't know the timeline on boosters because we don't know. The first people that were vaccinated were the people in the clinical trials, and those two drug companies, and I'm sure Johnson & Johnson as well, do antibody studies on these people to see how long the immunity lasts and how gradually these antibodies in the immune system are trickling down. So we'll find out the answer to that. But I would not be surprised if booster shots are offered in the winter.
Right.
Okay. You've got a file folder over here.
I do.
What's in the file?
Well, it's funny that question was about the variants. Yeah, and you can look on ISDH's website and monitor the variants of concerns. And in Indiana, the most prominent variant is the B117, which is the UK variant. It's the number one variant here in Wayne County as well. So that's the dominant strain in Indiana, followed by the Brazilian, the P1 variant. And then we have, followed by that one, the B1427, which is the California variant, right? Mm-hmm. And then the South African variant. We've only had 27 cases of the South African variant in Indiana. But not every test that's ran gets strained out. Not every case gets strained out to see what variant it is. So they pull, every so often to see what is the dominant strains.
Kind of a random hit, as it
Yeah,
were?
random samples,
yeah.
because they have to be sent off to be sequenced, genetically sequenced to find out which variant it is. That B117 variant is, you get good protection from the vaccines. It's much more infectious than the initial strain that we had. And that's one of the reasons another reason to be vaccinated. If you would, the virus can only mutate or form these variants when it's in somebody's body. It can't do that when it's out in the open air or lying on a surface. So the more people that are vaccinated, the less of a threat variants are.
You're watching Ask the Doctors on WGTV Channel 11. We are still taking your questions on Facebook as well as on Twitter. With you all beginning to kind of wind down how much vaccination work that you all are doing, you're down to 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Actually, we are now Monday through Friday.
Okay.
So you can come in anytime, and we're able to do that because we're not having, hundreds of people coming in every day that we need to concentrate our staff for those. So we've now opened it up Monday through Friday at the health department. Of course, scheduling an appointment makes your appointment go faster, but we'll take walk-ins. The last walk-in would be taken at 3:30, and that's just so we can know kind of our what we need to pull and stuff for that day.
Okay. I'm going to finish that question in a minute, but because you said that, I'm going to kind of jump. What are you all seeing in the way of testing in your office? We haven't, for a long time, probably this time last year, we talked testing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
And we couldn't get it.
and we couldn't get it. Then we got it, and we had it. Obviously, you're saying from the numbers, we've probably got 60% of the county that is still unvaccinated at this point, which means it's still out there. What are you all seeing in the way of testing, and how is that being handled? We probably haven't talked about that for a few weeks.
Yeah, and it's good that you brought that up, because we've been notified by the state health department that they are closing the Cambridge City site. So that last day is going to be June 25th. So that site will no longer have any COVID testing. But there's still testing at the health department, and that's Monday through Friday from 8 to 4 that you can schedule an appointment. Testing is low. We probably do less than 50 tests a day at our site. And, why is that? Well, I mean, we have a positivity rate of, under 3% right now. There's a lot of places that, do testing now. We're not the only game in town. So there's a lot of different places you can go for testing, not just the health department. But I think if you watched the last health board meeting, we'd had a discussion about do we continue our testing grant, because there was a renewal of that we were going to need to apply for. Right. And kind of Dr. Jetmore and I had both kind of thought, oh, there's so many places that people can get tests done. We could probably better focus our time doing other things. And then, after a couple of days mulling it over, we thought, we don't know what this fall is going to hold. So we better hold on to that grant, make sure that the county does have the capacity to ramp back up and have that same high level of testing that we had last year. So we kept the grant, and you may see us in the fall, depending on what happens. We may try to open another site in Cambridge City or something like that if we think that that's needed.
Okay. You're watching Ask the Doctors on WGTV Channel 11. We are taking your questions. I think we may have another one or two that we're going to try to get to. Will we be back to 100% capacity for fall high school sporting events such as football games?
I don't know.
Well, the one thing
good
that
question.
I would, if I were a young athlete on a football team, I would get, or any sports team, track, those kids are in such close proximity. I would have them all get vaccinated. Last year, the kids kept losing all this time. There'd be somebody would come up with COVID, the whole team activity got shut down. Yeah. And now we've got an opportunity here for these young people to be vaccinated and have a regular season. I think there's a chance that we can get to that level. One of the things that people don't realize, if you've not been vaccinated, you need to protect yourself. You need to wear masks and socially distance. You see these signs in stores that say, if you're not vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask. And you go into the store and no one there is wearing a mask, which means either vaccinated people really like that grocery store or there are people there who are not wearing a mask and they're not vaccinated. And my concern really is just I don't want to see people get ill. I don't want to see people get this disease. We've been battling this for over a year now, and I just don't want to go backwards. I want to keep the hard-earned ground we've taken and hold on to it.
You just want to keep traveling. And
I want to keep traveling.
You're waiting on your next plane trip.
Well, and what we need to remember, is taking care of our fellow citizen. You know, there are a lot of people out there that have compromised immune systems, and they're compromised because they're on immunosuppressant drugs. I've shared that, you know, my son is one of those. He has to be on a regimen that suppresses his immune system so his body quits attacking his kidneys. He, of course, got the vaccine, and now the studies are showing that people that have suppressed immune systems by being on immunosuppressant drugs have somewhere between 0 and 16% immunity from the shot. So, you know, you choose not to get vaccinated, you choose not to wear a mask, and you come across someone that you don't know if they had a suppressed immune system, and you now infect them with COVID-19, and they die because of that, you know, even though they took the vaccine. We need to be mindful of each other, you know, and understand that there are people that because of different illnesses, because of different cancer treatments, that they don't have the same protection, even though they've been vaccinated, as me. You know, I took Pfizer. I got 95%, you know, protection from that vaccine. So it's just important that we stop just only thinking about ourselves and the fact that I don't want to wear that mask. Well, no one wants to wear the mask. But it's important that we get all of us, as many people as we possibly can, through this pandemic. And that means getting vaccinated, and if you don't want to get vaccinated, wearing your mask.
Okay. I think we've got one more question, and then we'll go back to finding out if there's anything else in Christine's file folder. Is there another question that we have? Any suggestions to help get your sense of smell back after having COVID? A friend hasn't been able to smell anything in over 6 months now.
As an ear, nose, and throat doctor, this is losing your sense of smell is called anosmia. It's not necessary to know that word. I don't know why I threw that in, but I would see every winter 3 or 4 people during flu season that lost their sense of smell. And 90% of what we call taste is smell, so it affects your sense of taste by affecting your sense of smell. And there's little to no treatment that can be offered these people. It's an insult to the nerve itself, the olfactory nerve, which sits at the very top of the nasal cavity. And those anosmic individuals, they were almost always had a history of having had the flu. Having said that, there's more hope for somebody that's had anosmia from COVID, because there's a lot of evidence that it doesn't affect the nerve itself, but rather affects the little respiratory supporting cells around the nerve. So I think people can gain their sense of smell back for up to a year after losing it, but there are many remedies offered to treat this, to make your sense of smell come back, but there's not been any scientific evidence that any of these treatments work. It's simply a matter of having your friend, the friend of the questioner, wait this out and hope for the best. And I hope he does get some return of his sense of smell, but there's no treatment. I see a hand up over
I have
here.
a question.
See a hand at the back of the room?
Yeah, I find the loss of the sense of taste and smell just an amazing thing, that this is one of the symptoms of COVID. But is it normal for people to, like, their smell change? My sister had COVID. She lost her sense of smell, and then as it came back, things that used to be pleasant to her, like the smell of coffee, is nauseating to her. And she says that meat tastes like metal. Anytime that she eats anything that has meat in it, she has a real metallic taste in her mouth. And that's been probably 6 months, just like the
Yeah,
question.
that's often a transitory period between having no sense of smell at all and getting your sense of smell back. It's kind of a perversion if you will, of what you're smelling. And I think it's because the nerves are detecting something. They're at the point of healing, but they're giving a false message to the brain of what they're smelling. So the fact that she's smelling anything is a good prognostic sign. She'll probably go on to improve, and probably there's a good likelihood she'll get her sense of smell back. What's really devastating is when you have no sense of smell whatsoever, because then it's dicey on whether or not you'll get any return of function whatsoever.
That's interesting. And that was probably the main reason that I was like, hurry up with this vaccine, because the only thing that I like better than smelling good food is tasting good food. So I really didn't want to lose my sense of taste and smell. So I really didn't want to get COVID.
Well, it's interesting, people usually associate taste with the tongue, but the tongue can only identify sweet, salt, sour, a few tiny, the real 99% of what we call taste is what we experience through our noses. And that's why if you've ever had a bad cold and your nose is plugged up, I mean, your food just sort of tastes like wet paper. You don't really, you really can't enjoy it like you would if you can smell it.
And I started to say, as you all are kind of winding down some of the COVID talk, when I first really talked to you all 15 months or so ago, doesn't seem like it, but yes, you had just moved to town and taken the position as executive director. You were just becoming public health officer and had admitted you hadn't really thought much about public health. Now that you all are able to begin to think about your office a little bit more in a different sort of way, what kind of things are you all seeing, finding? How are you all finding the positions that you're in beyond that? I mean, it's been a 16-month or so whirlwind for you all in these positions.
Do you remember our interview?
Yeah, I remember admitting at the time that I didn't know anything at all about public health. And I thought it was better to come out with the blunt facts right at the beginning. I spent my life as a surgeon. I never thought about preventing disease. I just thought about cutting it out once it had occurred. But I have to say, I've read something about public health every single day of my life since that time, and so I'm kind of a self-educated public health officer. I don't think I realized the importance of public health earlier. I don't think I realized, when you go to a restaurant and you eat the food and you have a glass of water, you don't go home and think, that was wonderful, Maxine, we didn't get cholera. Or you just assume you're not going to get cholera. But, we lived in a time when people didn't drink water. People drank wine or beer because the water source couldn't be trusted.
I'm sorry, never mind. Go ahead.
Now you can choose to drink wine and beer with your dinner. Before, we drank wine and beer because the water was fouled. And so we had to distill it and ferment it in order to make it drinkable. So that's why we drank. Now we do it for pleasure. So
yeah, it's everybody kept an orchard back on those pioneer days because they needed the apple juice. But the point of it is in public health, if you're really successful, it's invisible. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows you did it. Everybody sees disease, but you can't see health. It's kind of invisible compared to disease. You just assume that when you flush the toilet, it's not going to pollute your nearby river. All that's taken care of. It's treated with out of sight. Food inspectors come and ensure that your food's not roach or rat infested, that you're being served on clean plates, and because all this happens behind the scenes, and and we see it every day. We just assume that I guess that's just the way the world works. But it doesn't. It's made to work that way. And that's why I really admire, I've come to admire public health people for what they do and for the safe world they've created for all of us to live in.
If people tune into the health board meeting next week, they're going to see that we're working on a new food ordinance. It's funny that you mentioned that. And that was one of the ones when I first came here to Wayne County and was looking at, where are we? What are things that I see that are good? What do I see that maybe are deficient or need our attention? Mm-hmm. The food ordinance was one of the ones that I thought, well, that could be improved. And particularly when you think about what public health does, your food inspectors are the only inspector in your health department that will touch 100% of the people in your community. So our septic inspector, not everybody lives on a septic system, so they won't, see the benefit of our septic inspector. Not everyone will use our vaccination centers. Not everyone will do a lot of things, or not everyone was born here, so they won't need a birth certificate from our health department. But 100% of people will eat food in Wayne County, either by going to the grocery store or going to a restaurant. And that's where we can make a big impact on the health of our community, is making sure that we have safely ran food establishments and grocery stores, and by having a up-to-date food ordinance, it is easier for us to be able to make sure that we have the most robust food inspection program.
What kind of things, and the health board meeting, by the way, will happen next Thursday at noon.
At noon.
In the county annex building, if you would like to be there live, or we always record those meetings, and it will probably be, we've scheduled it, I just don't remember when. Actually, I think it will come up right after this show next Friday, as a matter of fact. So
the food ordinance will adopt the current food code, which that's what we work in, and so that ordinance adopts that. But it also gives us a way to do a more standardized approach to enforcement and a standardized approach to appeals to those. So it's good for us, but it's also good for the establishments and those owners, that they understand how to, if they disagree with a violation, they disagree with an enforcement action, what is the recourse of that? This ordinance actually sets up an appeals process, and it's not, you don't appeal to me and you don't appeal to Dr. Jetmore, because we're kind of biased in the fact that we'll be like, yeah, I think that we did it right. Yep, good job, us. There'll be a board that gets set up that the appeals will go through, and there's a couple of different ways. It can be a board of our Board of Health, so some members of the Board of Health can sit on that, or we can choose to say, you know what, let's have a citizen review board. And I like citizen review boards. I like bringing citizens into what does the health department do. And, the more a community understands public health, what we do, and why it's important, the better our whole community is. And so I do like citizen review boards.
Okay. We've got about 4 minutes left before we get out of here. Want to give you another chance to mention your vaccine clinic, which is going to be at Centerville Junior High School?
Centerville Junior High School, and I think that's 506 Willow
509.
Grove. And it is from 10 to 2 on Saturday. Come and see us. Adults can get vaccinated. Children get vaccinated. You don't have to be a resident of Centerville, and you don't have to be a student at Centerville schools to get vaccinated. You do have to be 12 or older to be vaccinated. We will have all 3 of the vaccines. So if you're 18 or older, it's a la carte. You can choose Pfizer, you can choose Moderna, or you can choose the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. 12 to 17-year-olds will only be offered the Pfizer vaccine. You'll come in the main entrance there at the Centerville schools. We also will be at the fair So we will have our mobile immunization clinic out there at the fair. And that's the 19th through the 26th that we will be out there. You can make appointments or you can walk in out there. If you don't need your vaccine and you just want to take a look at the mobile immunization unit, just stop by and see us. You know, we'll be out there. I think we're from 4:30 till whenever things wind down out there at the fair. I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't been to the Wayne County Fair, and I am a 4-H girl, so I've always enjoyed it. My kids were in 4-H. Hopefully I can get my grandson involved in 4-H, and I know my grandson's watching today, so if I could say hi to Maddox, you know, that'll probably get me some brownie points when I get home.
Gotta love brownie points.
I know.
Also, vaccinations taking place at Ivy Tech, the 16th through the 19th. That is 2357 Chester Boulevard, but this is being run through the state.
That is the state, and they also will have more than just one vaccine out there. And I know Johnson & Johnson will be one of the vaccines that they'll be offering. I think it's Moderna and Johnson & Johnson.
One of the questions that we have, and we only have about 2 minutes left to go, one of the questions we got was a question about 100% capacity at ball games. And you went, I don't know. I think we didn't go into it, but I think one of the reasons is how things will happen within school districts will be decided by the individual school districts, I think, based on the last executive report that came out by the governor, correct?
Right, and I don't think any of us are ready to say, well, you could only be at 50% capacity when schools open back up. I don't know I really do not know. And, you know, the things that can affect that are vaccination rates and the amount of transmission that we have at that time. So that's why I say I don't know. I really
Yeah, I think the
don't
critical thing is we don't know what the level of activity of the virus is going to be. If the positivity rate's 17 instead of 2, that's going to affect what behavior we recommend people have. We want people to be safe. We want people to. I feel like I'm the killjoy around here, along with Christine. But our end goal is for everybody to survive. As many people live through this as we can, get as many people vaccinated as we can, and move on to other things.
Like the Wayne County 4-H Fair Queens Contest, which is going to be taking place tomorrow night in the Raper Center at the Wayne County Fairgrounds. We're going to record that if you don't have a chance to get there or enjoy the Bark Park like Christine is going to be doing. Check out a movie, get outside, and enjoy. Lots going on in and around Wayne County. Thanks for watching Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. As always, I wish you well.